I didn't really see anything for women, when it came to the education piece. Most of our meetups were all based off of wine. I've gone shopping. I've gone, I saw a cooking class, and a lot of it was coined professional women. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I'm professional, but that's not what I do in my professional time. I mean, that's what I do in my personal time. And when I started this, I was like, you know what? I've got a big contact list. Let me just get everybody together. And so I got everybody together in the land process from A to Z. So you got attorneys, engineers, land planners, infrastructure folks, AC, market research people, and I put them all in the room. And I said, okay, what's the next step? Why don't we teach each other?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Land Development Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Glick. If this is your first time joining us, each week when you tune in, you'll hear one of two different types of shows. Sometimes when you tune in, you're going to hear industry news. That's where we pull up a few different headlines and we talk about what it means for the land development industry. And then other times we have an interview style show, and that's where we have on someone associated with the land development industry, and we talk about some topics that are of interest to them. Now, today I'm excited to have with me Erica Sinner, who is the founder and CEO of Ladies in Land. Erica, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, where I want to start is where I start with all these episodes, and I'm sure people listening in are sick of me saying it that way. But I think it's for me, and I hear it from others as well. It's always interesting to see how people get into the industry, get into land. And so, what's your story? How did you get into the land space?
I actually came through sales. I was a sales rep for Pulte and another builder for a few years. Like a lot of people, I had two children, two small kids, and I needed the weekends off. So I took a job in strategic marketing for Taylor Morrison and did all the pricing and positioning for their communities here in Houston. I really enjoyed that, but I always like sitting at my desk all day, so I like being out in the field. And I had a good friend of mine, I say Chris Chu, he's out division president here in Ashton now, but he came to me and he said, hey, Erica, have you thought about land? I was like, not really. I go, these are my skill sets. And he goes, yeah, I think land would be really good for you. And I said, okay, well, put me where you need me. And I started my land journey about 8 years ago. And I absolutely love it. So he must have just read me like an open book, because I absolutely love it. And I've stayed mostly in acquisition. I dabbled a little bit in development from the standpoint of teeing up deals, but most of my stuff is in acquisition, and I do market research and market studies, and I love the space.
Well, at some point, you saw a need for
Oh,
an organization like Ladies in Land. And so, can you talk through where that idea came from, what need you saw, and why you created Ladies in Land?
well, Ryan, for years, I'm very involved in a lot of organizations. I meet a lot of people. I love networking. I'm very social, and I didn't really see anything for women. When it came to the education piece, most of our meetups were all based off of wine. I've gone shopping. I've gone, I saw a cooking class, and a lot of it was coined professional women. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I'm professional, but that's not what I do in my professional time. I mean, that's what I do in my personal time. And so, I had asked, other people to do it, and I was like, please, can we like meet up and do something educational? And nobody really cared to do that. And so I said, you know what, if nobody's going to do it, I'm going to do it. And when I started this, I was like, you know what? I've got a big contact list. Let me just get everybody together. And so I got everybody together in the land process from A to Z. So you got attorneys, engineers, land planners, infrastructure folks, AC, market research people, and I put them all in the room. And I said, okay, what's the next step? Why don't we teach each other? So let's teach each other about what we do in our space. And we once a month we pick a subject matter that is of interest, and we have an expert come in and they discuss it. And so, I saw that as something that was important. After I ran that a couple times, people just kept coming back and the groups kept getting bigger and bigger. And I thought, you know what? This is it. I wanted it. Other people want it. And yeah, I mean, we started, literally in 2023. I started growing the business in August of 2024. And now we're about to be in our 20th market in October. And I'm super excited. It's crazy busy, but it's exciting, and we're all learning from each other nationally and locally, and meeting so many different kinds of methods and minds. It's great. It's absolutely fabulous.
And did you start this in Houston? Was that your
I
first?
did.
Okay, that was the first location. And when you started reaching out to women and asking them about this idea or getting them together in the beginning, did it feel like everybody was open to it, or they thought the same thing? Was it is like you felt like you weren't alone at that point? It's like, hey, there's other people that are thinking the exact same thing.
No, you should see the emails that I got because at first I started out for a long time with emails and people just email me and whatnot, and people are like, oh my god, I've been wanting something like this for so long, and I I want to learn from other people and grow and even now up to that we have an application process that we've rolled out as the last probably 7 or 8 months, and in just the applications themselves, same thing over and over in each city. They're like, I just don't feel like I belong. I want to belong in this space. I want to learn from others. I've asked XYZ organization to do it. Nobody's doing it. So, yeah, everything that I felt, these other women are feeling too. So, no, it doesn't feel like I'm pulling teeth or anything. People want this.
You set this up, and initially did you have kind of a big vision when you first started it of like, I want this to be across the country, or were you thinking locally, like, I just want to have a group of ladies that I can get together with and we can, help educate each other on different topics related to the land industry? And that was kind of where you were focused initially, but as you started to see people come in, did that kind of help your vision expand to where it is today
Yeah.
and beyond?
So it's actually interesting that you say that. When I first did this, I never envisioned where I am now. I've always been a big picture thinker, but like I didn't go into it going, oh, I know I want to create this big organization. It's going to be nationally and globally. And I just literally said, I want to get educated. I can't handle these drinking events anymore. Granted, I like to drink just like I think the rest of the people, but I just wanted something that wasn't making a mockery of who I am and what I do in this space. And I want to be taken seriously, from that standpoint. And so I just knew I had a wide array of people I work with. I put everybody together. I even emailed the guys and I was like, hey, men, if you have women in your office, send them our way. And so, our group really appeals to that lowest rung getting out because nobody's inviting them out or maybe they're nervous or scared. And so, it didn't kind of take a hold until about beginning of last year. We're about in April of last year. I had people emailing me and go, hey, someone sent this to me and I'd really like to be part of your organization. And I was like, this isn't an organization. We're just meeting up. But then after I heard it for like 2 or 3 months straight, I was like, Erica, maybe this is something. And I need to start thinking that way. I need to put my mind in that way. If this is an organization, what does that mean? And where does this go? And so I started thinking about expansion plans around the summer of last year when I met somebody that's just incredible. It's female Christina Kelly, who was working for an HOA company. And Christina was just bugging the hell out of me to meet. And so I was like, okay, I'll meet with her. And then I found out, in the process of meeting with her that she was a really strong person and she was covering another market. And this light bulb went off in my head. And I don't know how she felt about it, but I was like, hey, would you be interested in opening up a market in Austin? I do have no idea what this looks like, but I think you might be the person. And she was like, sure. And I, at first I thought I threw this on her too fast, but honestly, she has handled it like a boss. She's been amazing. We had 2 weeks to have do our first meetup in Austin. I gave her some direction. I said, okay, we're going to live stream over, just, get a business. I wouldn't mind, sponsoring their space and stuff. And her first meetup got 25 people. And we literally from Houston to Austin, we waved to each other. I had never seen anything like that. That was one of the coolest experiences. And from there, I just tried it out. I tried the same method out in Dallas and that worked. And then I said, okay, I'm going to hit 20 markets by end of 2025. Again, no plan on how I'm going to do that. But, one thing about me is I'm kind of resilient and I think on my feet and it's just grown really well. And again, people like it. So it works.
Have you talked to any other organizations out there or people who have run organizations to get any type of guidance or a little bit of help as you're going into this? Or are you, kind of
No.
figuring it out as you go along?
I have because the fact that I didn't think that the other organizations were really doing it the way I envisioned it. I've never asked anybody, hey, so what do you think? This is my idea because I already tried. I tried that already and it didn't seem like it worked. But I do have a couple close friends, I call them friends now, that are part of, one's with Homemade Houston, that, she runs a nonprofit. And so she's been a great resource and mentor for me and just different things. I will pull business people like, hey, these are obstacles I'm dealing with. What do you think? So I am not afraid to reach out to people that could be potential mentors, but I'm not really reaching out to the organizations because I did meet with somebody about a month ago and they said, you really need to have that social component and meet for like, drinking. And I was like, no, I just disagree. I disagree. So I find that if I go to a longstanding organization that they're just used to running it a certain way, they don't see that other way. They can't see another vision where I seek something completely different.
This episode is brought to you by Groove, a platform built specifically for land professionals and real estate developers. If you're trying to find land, Groove gives you access to ownership information and parcel data across the country. You can manage conversations with landowners right on the map, log calls, save notes, and attach documents so everything stays tied to the parcel. And when you're ready to move forward, Groove makes it easy to manage your real estate deals visually right on the map. You can track deal stages, organize your research, and see where everything stands at a glance. Groove's constantly rolling out new features based on real customer feedback, so the platform just keeps getting better. You can start a free trial today at letsgroove.com/signup. That's letsgroov.com/signup. All right, let's get back to the show. Yeah, and this is, I mean, you're essentially an entrepreneur. I mean, you've
A
started
little bit.
you started a company. I mean, it's a company, it's an organization, and there's
Yeah.
pieces to it that you run like a business. And with that, I wonder what has been the biggest challenge of getting Ladies and Land off the ground, getting into different markets and everything. What's been your biggest challenge so far?
The biggest challenge is that most organizations I found is that usually when they open up a chapter, they pick a somebody will definitely put their hand up and say, I'll run that chapter. But then they let go and they go off to their next thing. And then whoever runs that chapter does it the way they see it. And there's no consistency around the board. So if you go from Houston to Austin to, Orlando, it could be like 10 different versions of something. And even though it's housed under one name, it's like a Frankenstein. So what I do here is I tell everyone, hey, you know how Chick-fil-A has My Pleasure? We have this. It is a brand and we're delivering an experience to the women in the area. And this is what we do. Now you can change it up a little bit, but like if I go to Starbucks and I get my vanilla latte like this in Houston, I hope to get it the same over in Florida. And I said, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to focus on these education settings and these systems. And then you can choose how you want it, but it's in this method. And the challenge would be, a little bit of pushback sometimes because some women are used to doing it a certain way or wanting to have more freedom. And I said, yeah, but I don't know what the other organizations do. We're not doing that. So that's a little bit navigating that. Some people they can handle it and some people can't. So, it's just personalities, but it's been amazing. I was just in Raleigh yesterday and it was great. There was like 44 people ish in the room, and you had the method all down and the women are the same as I would see here in Houston, craving this and wanting more knowledge. So it's just very moving.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about if you get around to some of the other locations
I
and not
try.
just the Houston one. So you've been to some of the others.
A few. I don't get out as much as I would like to, but like I looked at my calendar. I had an opportunity to jump on a flight and go to Raleigh, so I did. And I'm going to go to Denver's first one next week. Kim Mitchell's speaking, and I can't wait to learn about archaeological due diligence. So I'm going to attend that one, but I don't normally because I usually have my day job, and so I don't normally get out. But I do try when I can.
And so one thing I was kind of thinking about coming into this was you've started this 2 years ago and really started to grow it in 2024. So we're not that far into this journey so far. And you've had quite a bit of growth, but as you've grown, what metrics or what are you using to measure your success of the organization? Is it merely the number of branches you open and the number of women involved? Or is it more than that? Is there something else that you're looking at to try to quantify, success for the organization?
I look at the people involved, the people that come back. I pay it a lot of attention, almost too much, but it's probably because I'm a founder. I pay a lot of attention to what people are saying. You know, if they're emailing or they're submitting in their application something particular, I look at the back end if they're coming to multiple meetups or did they invest in a membership because our membership dues are relatively low, and we did this on purpose because we want to make sure people find value in what we do. Are they, are they investing in that membership or are they not? Are they telling other people? And so I look at just more I call it customer component. I've always been customer focused ever since I was like 16. I'm very big about the women are they liking it? So from the money perspective, it's never been about the money, and there's really not too much, but at the end of the day, it's really are they learning? Are they learning? Are they wanting more? Are they wanting to get involved? That's very important too. So
And so with that, as you go, forward with this, or you're looking out into the future,
yeah.
you mentioned goals for 2025, getting to 20 different branches. Like, what does it look like beyond 2025? Or have you started to set goals for what you want to do in the,
Oh yeah.
next 3 to 5 years, or like, where do you want this to go?
So the next year, I'm really excited about it. I'm working on a university feeder program to establish Ladies in Land on campus, and so that's exciting. I'm molding that right now. Most likely, we'll pull the trigger sometime around January. That I want to be able to help the younger generation get more involved in land and what that means for them, and have more mentorship and internship opportunities. So I've got that. I want to add another 20 chapters this next year, which is a big undertaking along with what I already have. Because, bringing on 8 chapters between September and October has opened my eyes to like how busy it can get. So understanding that and the organizational structure and putting the people in place here at the organization to support that growth, that's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, I'm really curious how you establish this. So I'm kind of going back a little bit to the beginning, because I'm thinking
Yeah.
through setting up an organization. And for people
Yeah.
listening in, maybe there probably very few people out there have the aspiration the drive to go and start some type of organization. And with you doing this, are you thinking at this point, as you set up and you set these new branches, it sounds like they're not necessarily autonomous, as far as they're not their own organization. They are a part, they report back in air
Yep.
quotes, back to kind of the
Main hub.
the main hub.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Is that how it's set up?
That's how it's set up, and because the way I see it, the overall goal is to elevate women. Okay, in that when you start chopping away at it, it's like, how do we do that? I don't feel working in silos is how we're going to get there. I feel like we have to all band together and say, hey, us as a collective group working together, sharing knowledge, from market to market is how we're going to get to a better place. I've already seen positive change, which I'm very excited. I know we're going to see even more, especially bringing in the university system. So, it's just important to kind of have, again, consistency. Now, with that said, like I was even thinking about the other day, I'm like, okay, we're redoing our members portal right now, and there's going to be an opportunity for members to be able to make their own meetup. So bring in that light social component. If they want to go to coffee and they want others to join them, great. Or maybe I'm in Denver and I want to meet other women, I can, because right now I only know them from the standpoint of what's online, but I don't know them physically. So there's that. But it's important that we all work together. And if I don't do it that way, it just doesn't allow us to move as a nation. So it's important, especially when you think about like how did the United States come about? We didn't all have different states and we all did our own thing and then we never talked to each other. We all band together to work as a collective whole. And so that's how we need to look at these things, that we need to be banding together and crossing over from market to market.
Yeah, and you said something there that I think is important to probably define for the audience, because we're probably not surprisingly, we're 85 to 90% male audience that listen into the show, which is kind of what it's like in the industry. And
Yeah.
so you said that the goal is you want to elevate women. And so I think for a heavily male audience, they might wonder, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to elevate women?
What does that mean to
Um,
me?
yeah, yeah. So can you describe that a little bit? When you say elevate women, what does that look like?
like you said, with having a male dominated audience, I mean, the industry itself in land is very male dominated. I never minded it. I play cards and pool and all of those great things. So I've always been used to it. But, you know, because of the fact that it is very male driven, men tend, and they're not, nobody's doing it on purpose. Hell, I just wrote an article. I had someone write an article about how great male supporters have been for us. It's a matter of, females in itself, they're not always invited to groups because, men have their groups and it's completely normal and those aren't going to go away. And I'm not asking for them to go away. They need a space for themselves, just like we need a space for ourselves. Just what I saw is that we didn't have anything education based. And so, I want a way for females to learn through education, because when men go off and they go in those groups to themselves, they are teaching each other. There's a
Right.
lot of mentorship that happens where women, there's really not as much, and we need that. And so that's where I'm looking to help, hopefully bring more mentorship, bring more sharing of knowledge on a monthly basis, weekly basis, versus once a year or whatever it is, because men are getting it on a constant. And I hear from a lot of my male mentors, I have tons, and I say tons, I have a few, and they tell me, they said this is what it was like in the old days. The men would take the guys to the bar or wherever they go, and they would teach them about the deals that were failing. Well, women don't really get that. We're going to get it here. And
Yeah.
that's the point. And honestly, get a lot of guys that want to join us. They're like, I want to learn. And I'm like, well, you can join virtually. So, I'm one step at a time, Erica, one step at a time. We're here for the women and getting the women up, and so that we can provide a ton of value to the organizations that we work for, and be a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah. Do you so you have dues that are paid from the
Mhm.
members. Do you also take on like corporate sponsors and things like that, or people who invest into it? Is that another path for revenue for the organization?
We do, because our membership dues. So I just kind of looked at it going, okay, either you can have a larger membership due, kind of similar to ULI and a few other organizations, or we can have a lower membership due, and businesses that they're already sponsoring everywhere because they want to be able to get out and get their brand known or get business, however it is. We take on those as well. And we give them a place to go ahead and connect with the members. I mean, it's a symbiotic relationship. It all works out. It makes sense. I never quite understood. I mean, I laugh every time I look at a water bottle and there's a logo there. I'm just like, God, I wonder how much they paid for that. Because like I'm going to drink the water and throw my bottle away, and I don't know. Again, I was in sales coming out of college. I just looked at it going, how can I provide a better sales experience for them as well? And we need them just as much as they need us. So I allow them to sponsor our local meetups. I encourage the chapter leaders to make sure whatever our topic is, to pick the right vendors for that topic so that it makes sense for everybody. And so we do a lot of that, and it just works really well.
Do you have any favorite success stories you've heard from any of the chapters or any of the members who maybe reached out to you directly after they joined and they were in it for a little while? And you don't have to name names or anything like that, but just curious if you have any stories that you can share.
I mean, I actually just got a text yesterday because one girl here in Houston, she's wonderful, but she's just she's like, I want to submit another review. I would like another place that, because this has been so meaningful for me. Literally, she told me the other day that she got that she has a testimony about where she met somebody that does bond sales, and she goes, I work with her on two of my deals, and it's been wonderful. And that same person had already told me a year ago, same thing. She's gotten a lot of business out of it. It's been a very meaningful experience for her. But where for that person that told me about that does the bond sales, she works for RBC Capital, and she was our first lunch and learn, and she has consistently come back to give her expertise and to sponsor too, because she does find a lot of value. She meets people that could use her company's experience. And then the on the flip side, you got the member who's now telling me the same thing. So I get a lot of that. I also look at the chapter leaders and I tell them, I say, yeah, you're donating your time and you're working at this. And it is a little bit of work, not a ton, it's a little bit of work. But, one girl, she's doubled her salary in a year. In a year. And I'm like, that's amazing. But she puts in a lot of work and she's very thankful for it. Another one, she's an attorney and she's had a lot of kudos from her law firm that, she's going to be one of the few female, she's getting considered to be one of the few female partners. Like we're growing not only our members, the businesses, but also the chapter leaders. It's been a very meaningful experience for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, no, that's really good to hear. And I know you have a lot of examples of that based on the messages you
Yeah.
get, but
A few.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So people who are listening in that may want to join. So, I mean, we still have 10 to 15% of our audience that are women. So,
Men
if
can
they,
join too,
yes,
Ryan.
well, I
Men
know,
can
yeah, I
join
know
too.
you mentioned that, but anybody who may want to, well, actually what I was thinking was more so on if somebody wants to start a chapter
Yeah.
in another city that you're not in yet to help you get to some of those goals, and they want to take on that leadership role. Because I think from what you just said there, someone who did end up being the head of one of the chapters, it does help you work on your leadership skills, and that directly correlates to your career and what you're doing
Yes.
inside of a company, and brings more opportunities. So yeah, I definitely see the value there. But if somebody's interested, where do they go to sign up for the organization, or maybe to submit a request to start a new location?
They can reach directly out to me. I'm pretty personable now. I'm getting a lot of emails these days, but they can reach out to me. It's I can give you my email and you can put
Yeah.
it in one of the links. Or they can do info@ladiesandland.com. That usually comes back to me in some sort of fashion and we can help them out there. There's a couple of different ways they can reach out to us, but every email I again, I work day and night and I'm always coming through everything. So I try not to miss a beat. So
All right. I assume the corporate sponsors or business sponsors, same thing. They would just reach directly out to you.
sponsorships@ladiesandland.com. And if memberships, if they like a corporate membership, memberships@ladiesandland.com.
Cool. Well, I want to shift into the last segment here of the show, which is our lightning round. So 5 questions for you, based on your experience and also the organization, and just want to get your thoughts on these. So first
Okay.
one, as a founder, what have you learned about leadership through this process?
So many different personalities. So many different personalities, and not everybody, you got to get to know how people want to, I guess, be spoken to or be, I would say not coddled, but like be worked with. That's been a really interesting experience because, I'd say unlike men, women have a lot more complex. They have we've got a lot more emotions. And so, having to even dig into that a little bit deeper has been something that I'm very forward thinking now. And even working with like a coach or executive coach, I probably talk to her at least every other day, every 3 days. What can I do better? Allison, help me. What can I do better? So that's been a new experience for me.
Awesome. All right. Second one, what advice would you give to someone thinking about launching their own organization or community in real estate?
Oh my God. I don't know because I didn't go into this wanting to launch an organization, and I heavily think somebody should think about it first, just because it is a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot of work, and it does take up a lot of time. But if they're interested in launching something that they think is meaningful, look out there. I would ask to make sure that somebody's not open to doing it, because if you could have the help of like a bigger umbrella parent, that I think would be easier. If you have to go in it on your own, then you can do it by yourself, but just make sure you have a plan and think through a lot of the stuff that you want to do.
All right, third one. If you could go back and tell yourself one thing before starting Ladies and Land, what would it be?
I wouldn't do that because I might scare myself. I don't know. I'd probably I would say if I could do anything, I'd probably lean more into the mentors, and getting it going faster, because that's probably what I haven't done. At the beginning, I took a lot of it on myself and just did a lot of e-blasts and stuff. But like, I'd probably lean into my network to just help me a little bit more.
All right, fourth one. Do you have any habits or routines that help you stay like on point with things? Because you have a lot going on.
I do. Okay. Well, probably my most solid routine is I try to get in bed by 9:45, 10, which isn't much of anything because I'm up at 4:30 every morning, and I do work on the weekends, and I cut down going out. Having basically my personal life got cut down tremendously so that I could make time for what's meaningful in this growing this organization. But my routine would be getting up and very systematic about it. I get in about 2.5 hours, 3 hours before day stuff, and then I work on it after I get home at night too. So
I don't think people realize. Not everybody's a business owner out there, and I don't think people realize, especially when you're working you're working
the day
a
job,
day job,
yeah,
and then you're doing this on nights, weekends, any sliver of time that you can find, and then you've got you've got a family. It's like you've got all these things that you're trying to work on. I don't think people always realize that you you don't get to add more time into the day, so something has to give, right? So something has
Something.
to, yes, you have to give up something in order to do that. So yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. All right, last one here. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received about business?
About business, have a growth mindset. Have a growth mindset, and you don't let challenges keep you away from getting back up. I think true leadership is about getting up after you get knocked down and you keep going. And I've had numerous mentors tell me the same thing, and I just got it again the other day. And so I do feel like we're building leaders, even ones that say, "Hey, I want to be a leader." You can always get better, and we're building leaders in this program. And that growth mindset's everything. You tell yourself, "I'm going to do this." That's what I've literally done to make this happen. I'm like, "I'm going to get to 20 chapters." I didn't stop. I don't tell myself no. I just do it, and I don't know any different. And guess what? I'm going to hit 20 in October because I told myself I would do it.
No, that's great. Well, we are just about 30 minutes here, so I think it's time to wrap up. I know we already talked about how people can join or submit questions and stuff to you. Is there any other way or any other spot people can connect with you personally?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, my email, ladiesinland.com. There's multiple places on the website you can connect, or if you want to apply and be part of our organization, go through the application process. We get it pretty quickly, respond between 24 and 48 hours. Men, you can join us too. Just go to the events and hit live stream. You can join, or you can become a male land patron as well.
Awesome. All right, guys. So I will put all of the links and everything on the show notes page. So if you look down in the description of this episode, you'll see a link there to the show notes page, and that's where you'll see everything that was just mentioned. So you can connect with Erica, learn more about Ladies in Land. But Erica, I really appreciate you joining and talking through this. I think it helps those out there that aren't familiar with Ladies in Land. Now they are, and maybe someone from the audience will actually join or maybe open their own chapter someday. So that would be really cool to see.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you're not already subscribed, click that button and we will talk to you all next week.